The Ukrainian counteroffensive has started. The Ukrainian president gave a clear order. The Swiss peace talk is on 15th of June. The Ukrainian army should make counteroffensive and drive the Russians back to the borders. So the Ukrainians assembled more than 20,000 men around Kharkiv and counterattacked. They successfully crossed the Volcha River. This is not a wise move.
Until the stars are all alive.
Meanwhile, Russians restart offensive in Luhansk, Donetsk front and improved their tactical precision. This is Jason Jiang from Shenzhen. Today's report covers information from May the 25th to May the 28th. Around the Kharkiv border, Russians continue to assemble the army. The Ukrainian COD report shows that Russian forces are gathering near Graivoron and possibly indicated the formation of a new strike group in Belgorod Oblast. This is a tricky position. If the Russians form a new combat group, they can attack Sumy or they can go south to attack Kharkiv. But still, we didn't see any Russian elite forces coming, especially airborne forces. On Lipsy direction, the Ukrainians made counteroffensive and forced the Russians to retreat. Now Lipsy is under Ukrainian control. Russians moved back to Lukyansk and Huboki. Looks like the Russians are in defense mode. In the east side, the Russians stopped attempt to cross the river. The Ukrainians successfully made counteroffensive. They crossed the Volcha River and successfully get into north of Volchansk on May the 23rd. Now they are fighting in this district. This is not a wise move. The bridges are blown up and the Ukrainians don't have artillery advantage. How can you sustain an offensive like this? What's worse, it doesn't seem like the Ukrainians are just buying time to build defense lines in the south. Looks like they really want counteroffensive and drive the Russians out of this city. It is not an easy task. Here we see Krakens and the 3rd Tank Brigade are fighting. On the Russian side, 47th Division is operating here, but another regiment of the same division are fighting near Luhansk front. So this division is not at its full strength, which shows the Russians here are not in the full offensive mode. On Luhansk front, Russians made some progress. On May the 25th, Russians attacked here Avdiivka and captured this village in one day. Here's the tank regiment of 47th Division, which confirmed that the 47th Division are separated into two parts, and the Kharkiv part is not the main force. On 27th of May, the Russians finished clearing this village and start attacking to the next one. Here is the PO7 road. If the Russians continue pushing, they can threaten Kupyansk on the west. On the south side, the Russians continue attack. On May the 25th, they get into this village, Berestove, and on 27th, they successfully captured this village. Now we can see Russians fully expand this area. If they continue pushing, maybe they will be able to reach Oski River. On Liman front, there is no change for the past month. Here the main force of Russian is 25th Army, which is a newly formed army, in May 2023. On the Ukrainian side, in Luhansk front, they used to have a lot of brigades here. But now many of them have been transferred to Kharkiv for reinforcement. Maybe that's why here the defense are weakened and the Russians made some progress. Here in Siversky, Russians made a significant progress. On May the 27th, Russians successfully get into Bilohorivka. This is the first time since the past 12 months, and the Ukrainians made some counteroffensive. If the Russians want to successfully capture this village, they will have to capture this high ground as well. If they were able to capture here, this town will fall soon. On Chasiv Yar front, the Russians continue pushing for the past 3 days, but there are no major changes in the contact line. Here the main force is the 98th Guards Airborne Division. They haven't had rotation for the past 3 months, and it's very likely they will not engage in the summer offensive in June or July. In Klishivka, the Russians are still clearing the village. All the Ukrainian forces have retreated from this village. Looks like very soon the Ukrainians will retreat back to the canal line. On the Avdiivka front, the Russians restarted the offensive in the past 3 days and made some progress. Here they continue to attack Novoalexandrivka, but made little progress. Here is the 5th Separate Guards Mobile Rifle Brigade of the 41st Combined Army. They also attacked Sokio and captured this area. Here the attack force is the 27th Division of 2nd Combined Army. They used to be the 21st Brigade. On April 2024, they restructured and expanded into 27th Division, which shows the Russians are expanding their army. Near Umansk, Russians captured this village on 23rd of May, and they start clearing out this area. All the Ukrainians withdrawed back to this river line. So here we can see Russians restart their offensive, and they are attacking west not the north. So we can predict that in the summer offensive, the Russians' main goal is going west. I believe there are two main goals of the Russians. One is to cut this road, the T-504 road, which is the main supply line from Pokrovsk to Konstantinivka and Chasiv Yar. If the Russians cut this line, their supplies will have to go north. It will weaken the Ukrainian defense in the front line. And the second goal may be Berestove. This small town is around 10 kilometers away from Pokrovsk. If the Russians capture this town, Pokrovsk will be in artillery range. Pokrovsk is the most important city in Donbass, not Slavyansk or Konstantinivka. This is the logistic hub for the whole front. It's the crossroad of 6 main roads. Almost all weapons and resources come to Pokrovsk and then go to Chasiv Yar and other directions. The Russians don't even need to capture this city. They just need to get it into the artillery range. Then the whole Ukrainian logistic system will face great challenge. Think of that, such a huge ammunition hub. If your artillery can cover it, your air force can bomb it, that will be a disaster for the Ukrainians. So if I were the Ukrainians, I would try to lure the Russians to attack north, to go to New York or Toretsk. But unfortunately, the Russians are going the other way. So in the coming summer offensive, we may see the Russians push to the west, and we will see if the Ukrainians will be able to defend it. To conclude, for the past 3 days, the Ukrainians start a counter-offensive in the Kharkiv front, and the Russians restart their offensive in Luhansk and Avdiivka direction. In the coming summer offensive, we may see the Russians push west to Pokrovsk direction. The Ukrainian counter-offensive now is not a wise move. Maybe they should concentrate their defense forces here to defend their logistic hub. This summer offensive will be a turning point for this whole war. This is Jason Jiang from Shenzhen, China. Thank you for watching and see you next time.